Good morning. Welcome to our weekly question. My name is Jason Roski. I'm the owner of the KC Auction and Appraisal Company here in Kansas City, and we are experiencing the transition from fall to winter as the high today is going to be around 45 degrees. So hence the sweater vest as opposed to a tie today. Excuse me. Today we're going to be talking about online auctions. Are they your best option available? Quick update. It's been a really exciting week here at the auction house at the office. We had a great antique and art auction close on Monday. Buyers all around the world. We have a gemstone auction online right now. And we also, yesterday we had come in probably one of the most important collections of art in the Kansas City area that's hit the marketplace in decades. And more information will be coming on that. But if you like good art with a great provenance, the great history, make sure to stay tuned to our upcoming auctions. But today we're going to talk about online auctions. What is that? Are they your best option as a buyer or a seller? What kinds of things do we notice? It's almost our exclusive platform anymore. We use online auctions for almost everything that we do in every genre that we do it in. And so we see a lot of pros and cons to it. There are definitely situations where it is not a good option. But let's start talking about it first from the buyer's perspective, potential customers. What do we hear from our customers and in the marketplace in general about why it's a good or not such a good venue to purchase items from? Some of the things that we hear repeatedly as far as the benefits of an online-only auction, the convenience factor is probably the most paramount reason for it from a buyer's perspective. We close our auctions on Monday evening, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, generally speaking. But there are times that, there are auctions ending every day, so you can bid on items at your leisure. Just a couple of minutes ago, I looked on the HiBid platform, which is the software provider that we use, the back-end support. And today, right now, there are 660 online-only auctions on their platform today. You can peruse those. You can obviously narrow down searches and scopes of interest on that. You can find items exactly what you're looking for, but you can bid on items all around the world with their sellers. And it's a great opportunity to expand a collection, find client needs, or just to get a good idea of what the marketplace is. The regionality factor true? Does it exist? And if so, why, and what pieces would be worth more in, say, New York than in Kansas City or LA? A friend of ours, a colleague of ours, Wes Cowan, just last weekend sold a spectacular Kentucky bookcase secretary for just a few dollars shy of $500,000. If it was a Philadelphia piece, it's worth $25,000 to $40,000. But since it was a Kentucky piece being sold in the Midwest, it achieved an outstanding record price for that form from that area. So absolutely, regionality does play a factor of it. And if you're a collector of something, let's say you live in Kansas City, but you're from Minnesota and you look for items from there, well, you're going to have a better opportunity to find those things if you're searching auctions in Minnesota. And you can do those at your leisure as opposed to just driving up to Minnesota or flying up to Minnesota and maybe getting what the items that you're looking for. Other benefits, as we've talked about, the convenience factor, being able to look at items around the world. But let's talk about, most people buy things from auctioneers and auction companies they know about. We sell internationally, but 75 to 80% of our purchases stay right here within the Kansas City area. And there's several reasons for that. One is we have a really strong local presence. We're recognized here in town as having a quality operation, offering quality goods. And our buyers appreciate that. They understand that. And they know what to expect from us. If we say there's a small chip that's not noticeable, they understand that it's a small chip, not noticeable. Whereas, other auctioneers have a different definition of everything. And it can be damage like that. It can be just wear on a piece of furniture, wear on a rug. And so the online auction from a seller you trust can really help you with that. Other benefits, you don't have to invest hours and hours and hours to go to an auction. I love live auctions. I used to call a lot of them, 30, 40, 50 of them a year. I can still rattle the numbers, not nearly as well as I used to, but when people ask me now, do I talk fast? I might, but it's not in regards to numbers at an auction. It's just how I speak because I'm from the north. When you go to an auction, you have to invest. And you have to be there an hour beforehand to inspect the item, to get a good look at it. Have a drink, beverage, whatever it is, lunch. Then you have to wait for your item to sell. Oftentimes there's not a catalog. You don't know what order they're selling in. You might want something. You might want one item in an auction and have to invest 3, 4, 5 hours during the auction, and then you may or may not get it. Whereas with an online only auction, obviously there's a very specific time frame. The lots come up in a very defined time frame, so you know exactly when lot number 102 is going to cross the block per se, and you can arrange your entire day around that if you're interested. Or you can bid on it at any time prior to and not have to worry about the auction in particular. It's basically leaving a left bid with electronic processing. Some of the hindrances of purchasing and bidding online. You have to really understand what you're buying. We have this happen sometimes where a bidder bids on a piece and gets it home and realizes the size was different than they expected. The ware that we photographed looks different in person. And so you have to really understand what the photography is telling you, what the description is telling you, and understand that it's still an auction. You're buying it as is, where is, unless there's been gross misrepresentation, that you kind of, it is what you purchased. I had a lady pick up some pieces yesterday. She bought some gemstones in our previous auction. We had the measurement in there, 4 millimeters. She came in and said, well, they're tiny. Well, that's what 4 millimeters is. You kind of have to, at least get out a ruler and find out exactly what you're bidding on. The scale oftentimes does not translate. Most people are looking at this video today on a cell phone, on an iPad, even on a big screen TV. It looks different than it does in person. A 24 by 36 inch painting, you can't tell what that looks like size-wise. You can see the quality and the details, but everything looks different in person. So there's some drawbacks to that. The other drawback is oftentimes you have a very defined time frame to pick items up. And so if, we have, usually our pickup is during the week, always has been, even when we have live auctions. And so if you're bidding on something here and you have to make arrangements to get it picked up, you have to keep that in mind, that the seller of the object, the auction company, has limited space. No matter how big their operation is, they have a limited amount of space and resources to hold your objects. So you want to make sure that you understand the time frame to pick things up and remove them from the auction house. Shipping is a concern. If you're bidding on things from around the country, around the world, understand that there's going to be a cost involved with shipping that to you. These things, shipping has gotten really rather expensive. There's obviously options available to lessen that. You can use cheaper methods, but it's still going to be a cost that you have to continue to calculate into your purchasing price. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. The biggest pros for bidding online, buying online, is the convenience factor. You can do it at any time that you want to during the auction course. You have generally 2 weeks to get that accomplished. The biggest concerns, of course, are understanding the condition of the object and then the time frame to remove it. So if you're a seller, is the online auction, is that your best option available? Oftentimes it is. We recommend online only auctions to most people in most situations, if the time is available and if the assets qualify for it. The objects that sell well, generally speaking, in an online setting are items that are in good condition, that have some desirability in the marketplace. We find regularly that items with any kind of a condition issue will drastically drop the value of a piece online, because people will not go out of their way to bid on and purchase and pick up an object that has damage. They just don't feel like they have the time to do that, nor do they want to. There's a lot of merchandise available for sale right now in a lot of avenues and formats. And so the condition becomes really, really paramount when selling online. Other positives of selling online is the reach. Like I said, we sell 75 to 80% of our objects to local buyers. I mean, they come and pick it up. They live within 30, 40, 50 miles and come to the office and pick up the objects that they purchase. And it works out really, really well. We still send 20 to 25% of every auction that we do gets shipped out of the city, and several pieces get shipped across the country, across the world. We shipped several pieces to the United Kingdom from this previous auction. We had some English pottery that the buyers were in the UK, and they paid more than people here locally, even with the shipping factor. And so your pros are you reach a much broader audience, and you can reach much more defined collector groups. Have a 350 lot auction, but there's only 3 objects in a specific genre. We can advertise to that genre, and they're not going to invest a lot of time to go to a live auction if there's only 1% of the auction interesting to them. But if they have the opportunity to bid online, they don't have to worry about the other 330 lots. They can just bid on the 3 that they're interested in, and it really helps increase the revenue on those types of auctions. What other, the other benefits of selling online? The reach, the time frame. We can usually, most online auction companies, can turn assets in a month or so, a month to 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. And so you have the efficiency of the process. You have the reach of buying power. The buying base that you can reach online is different than it is in person. And just the efficiency of it and the effectiveness of the platform. The negatives, this is the 21st century, and with every generation, and I've been an auctioneer for 20 plus years now, there are new scams every day. And online is no different. We used to see people write hot checks, bad checks, and disappear with thousands of dollars of inventory at a live auction. Well, now the criminals are more advanced than that. They're stealing. Credit card fraud is a huge issue and concern, and so we continually work to mitigate that and lessen that. But that is one of the biggest concerns that we have as a company that represents our clients, and as a seller, that's a concern too. If we sell something and it comes up that it's a fraudulent credit card, that's an issue that we have to address together. There are very few other negatives to selling online. Your reach is better. Your exposure is better. The turnaround time is essentially the same, and it really does effectively market your objects to a much larger audience. Excuse me. So, when we look at the marketplace as a whole, I already mentioned that AuctionFlex HiBid has 660 auctions online today. Christie's this year, I wrote some notes down. They said in an article I read that was about a month and a half old, that 1/3 of their new customers this last year came through the online-only platforms that they were presenting. 1/3 of Christie's customers. They have tens of thousands of customers around the world. They have many low satellite locations. 1/3 of their new customers come from online-only auctions. That's a huge number. Anytime you can expand your buying base by 1/3 in a year, that's very impressive. Sotheby's this year is doubling the amount of online-only auctions they provide. So they're seeing this as a very strong avenue to reach a lot of people, process a lot of merchandise. They have very large staffs. They can process a lot of auctions in a short amount of time. And the online-only auction venue for them is very effective. Obviously, they wouldn't be investing the resources that they are if it wasn't. They're seeing that they're getting a lot of return, a lot of interest from their established customer base, and also from people who've never considered buying at Christie's or Sotheby's before, but they're looking for specific objects that shows up in a search someplace, and they're like, well, there's not the intimidation factor of going to a Christie's or a Sotheby's. I've been to both of their galleries in New York City. They're very impressive and very intimidating if you're not comfortable in that kind of a realm. They regularly sell $1 million paintings and pieces of jewelry. And that's a far cry from where most people live, and mentally and socially. And so it can be intimidating. But if you're at home, your credit card, your money is as good as anybody else's, and you don't have that intimidation factor from a buying standpoint. Couple of quick other points. Let me see what I've written down here. Not much, really. It's kind of it in a nutshell. There's a lot more we could talk about in this. I've had people ask questions about what's best to sell on an online auction. Kind of touched on that quickly. That's probably going to be a segment coming up is, what do we see the marketplace as? Where do we see it going? what is popular today and why, what is not popular today and why. That's going to be coming up in a short while in one of our next weekly questions. But if you have any questions, if you're watching the video now and have any questions, I'll kind of see what's going on here. I see that Carrie joined. Thank you so much. If you have any other questions, comments, concerns, please message here. Send us a private message. Go to our website. We have all of our weekly questions archived on our website with a transcript, so you can read it if you're at work. You can't watch the video with the sound on. You can read what I'm saying. And other than that, have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy lunch. Enjoy Friday. And we will talk to you soon.